some catastrophic damage to Twitter as a company, and he would have done nothing illegal, and I don't even know if you could call making that decision immoral. It's just these would be the consequences. This sort of massive business problem that Twitter would have, and it would be because of the consequences of their own policies. I mean, it's long been rumoured that people replying to Donald Trump who support him are being throttled or censored. So the radical left-wing journalists are the ones who come top of the replies. And that's always how it's looked to me as well. I never see the conservative replies. But you'd think, I mean, the thing's got like, a tweet might have 20,000 retweets. You'd think that hundreds and millions of people, undoubtedly, his impressions must be. And you would think a fair number of those would be conservatives who, they might see the top comment, which might normally be, "You're doing great, Donald," or something like that, and they would like that overwhelmingly. But instead, it's always a far leftist or someone who's just voraciously going at him. I don't see it as any moral problem for him to say, "Well, I don't use Twitter." I think it would be completely understandable, all things considered. And so it would be a really interesting thing, and I think Donald Trump could really stick it to his enemies by doing it.
Without question, the most important part of the advertising transaction. But what has the viewer got? There was a promise forever. The promise being delivered is we're going to give...
So a while back, I had a study done by a professor that was about the values shared by European nations, the sort of national values, and how they were different to one another. And I can't find it. If anyone can remember what it was, I'm sure I talked about it on the stream or something. If anyone can remember what it was, please let me know so I can find it again, because it was really useful. And I think it's really important to explain why the Brexit negotiations went so badly, because that's the video I'm currently doing for my main channel at the moment, and it's taking me forever. I mean, have a look at these sources. I've just got so fucking many of them. So I'm just like, you can see just like all of these. It just keeps going. There's a bunch of stuff I haven't categorized and stuff like this yet. But anyway, it's taking a long time to make. This is why my videos take so long. It's not that I don't do work. It's just that I do a lot of work. So anyway, I ended up finding this, and this is the American Western European Values Gap, and this was very interesting. And I think it's from 2012, but I still think it's worth talking about. So, going straight to the surveys. The views of individualism and the role of the state. Which is more important? To almost 60% of Americans, freedom to pursue life's goals without state interference is the purpose of the state. Like they have like the Lockean conception of the state. The state is there to protect your rights and do nothing else. And this is, I mean, look, you take that sort of an extreme like the objectivists and say, well, the only legitimate use of the state is the monopoly of force. So only things that require force are things that justify the state doing. And with 35% think that the state guarantees nothing needed. That's quite low. It's interesting. In Britain, it's the other way around. And same with Germany, in fact. 38% believe the freedom to pursue life's goals without state interference. So 38% are kind of Lockean liberals. 55% are kind of soft socialists, which is very interesting. And I get the feeling that these people think it sounds good in principle. Or it sounds, not even necessarily in principle, but just, it sounds good in the abstract. Well, it would be nice if the state made sure that nobody was in need. But I think when the rubber hits the road, they're probably not going to want the states to completely dominate their lives. But I don't know, maybe they will. Maybe they'll be full-on Corbyn worshippers, who knows. But Germany is 36% are sort of Lockean liberal, and 62% are kind of soft socialist. I'm going to call them soft socialists rather than I don't want to call them democratic socialists, because then they're still in favour of the state eventually owning them into production. You call them social democrats, which that'd be a so yeah, more social democrats in Germany than Britain, but not too many more. So that's not something by which I think there would be a massive cultural rift between England and Germany, but there is. And it's only because I lived out in Germany for 8 years that I have this kind of obsession with figuring out what it is. But it's important, and I think it's the kind of root cause of all of the conflict between England and Germany. Because really, there's no particular reason why we shouldn't be the best of friends and have had a long history of cooperation, especially given Britain's enmity with France. You would think that the Germans would be completely on our side on almost everything because of their enmity with the French, but instead they seem to get along with the French quite well. And if you look here, the French are almost exactly the same in their opinion on what the state should do. So this is what I mean when I say a continental mindset. You can Spanish, they're even worse. I mean, I personally find myself leaning far more towards what the US does. I don't want the state getting in my shit. I mean, like I said, I have no problem with universal healthcare because it's universal. It's not violating any of my principles. And honestly, it just makes life easier. I know that's a pragmatic argument, it's not an argument for principle, but it really does just make life easier. But it's this next one that is the most important. And this is... Honestly, I find this fucking fascinating. So, success in life is determined by forces outside our control. In the US, 36% agree. And I imagine that a lot of those people would also probably have said that the state guarantees nobody's in need. I imagine there's a great deal of crossover there. And 62% disagree. 62% of people in America believe that you can do these things for yourself. So that's not just Republicans, there are also Democrats who think this. In Britain, it's very similar. 41% to 55%, which is more disempowered than I would like, because ultimately what that's talking about, that's the idea of personal empowerment. Right? If your life and the success of your life is determined by factors outside of your control, then you personally are being disempowered by that attitude. You're going to sit there and naturally think, well, I probably can't do this because there are systems of oppression keeping me in my place. So I need to work within these systems. So it's going to be a natural corollary of just the state of mind. And in France and Spain it's not too far off, but then you get to Germany. 72% of people believe that your success in life is determined by outside forces, with only 27% disagreeing. That is fucking staggering to me. 72% of Germans believe that they didn't earn their own success. It's like, wow, that's. I mean, I hate to cite him. No, but like, ignore the drama. Like, Kraus always says, the Germans are institutionalists, and this would really explain why, wouldn't it? Of course they're going to be institutionalists. Of course they're going to be. If almost 3/4 of them think that their success in life is tied to forces outside of their control, and therefore the institutions of their society. But of course they're going to be thinking, well, I need to get into the institution, I need to operate within it, and I need them to work for me. This is how I'm going to be successful. That's not what British and American people generally think. And unfortunately in Britain, more than I'd like. To be honest, in America more than I'd like as well. But that is 72% think that. That is, and this is why people are like, oh, you can't just say all the Germans, not all Germans. Yeah, I know it's not all Germans, but it is a really large number of Germans, and it does absolutely affect the kind of attitudes that Germans have. And I only know this from speaking to Germans. I'm determined to get to the bottom of it. But anyway, that's like, it's just something I find incredibly fascinating, and I think that this is why the British and the Germans, and the Continentals, have approached the Brexit negotiations completely different. The British are very much more free-flowing when it comes to these things. I mean, they didn't even turn it on any fucking notes. The Germans had stats on this, and they want everything crystal clear, all laid out before anything goes ahead. Whereas the British are like, look, let's just go through it and we'll eventually come out of the other side with something that we can use. It's an anathema to the German mindset. They can't stand that. They believe that success in life is determined by forces outside of their control. And so, holy shit, we have to make sure that we have the systems and the institutions locked down. We need a process, which is why I haven't got a link up, unfortunately, but if you look at the process of Brexit, the EU have just a huge amount of, bureaucracy to go through. And I think this is one of the reasons it's raised. I mean, like, the other social differences really aren't very different. Apart from military tools to maintain order in the world, maybe, but I imagine that's Germany's fear of using military force. And they're very much in favour of getting UN approval. But then, to be fair, we are pretty in favour of that too. Isolationism versus engagement, there's not much difference. There's not much in it. This was interesting. Our people are not perfect, but our culture is superior to others. Half of people in the US are on either side of that. Half of people in Germany are on either side. In Britain, 63% don't think that British culture is superior to others, and 73% in France. That's disappointing, isn't it? That's really shocking. I mean, like, do you know what was really weird? If I have it. So I've been obviously reading Mein Kampf, and it's really fascinating to see Hitler's opinion on the English. So I'm currently in New York, and I went to the American Museum of Natural History, and I went into the People's of Africa exhibit because it looked quite interesting, and wouldn't you know it, a bunch of the descriptions written there were clearly written by SJWs. Now, many of them were quite normal, quite neutral, like this one. The life-giving course of the Zambezi watered arid plains and facilitated navigation, giving rise to a number of states. Impressive stone ruins, such as Zimbabwe, linked with an indigenous gold mining complex founded around the 7th century, reach up the river valley to the coast. The present population, however, are relative newcomers. The Zulu state developed mostly through conquest during the Great Bantu expansion south. Others, such as the Lozi, grew more gradually on a riverine farming base. All really normal. Totally normal. And then we get to the political science of it, and that's fine, normally. Normally, including the political science of something is a really useful thing for you to do. Except when you are trying to ameliorate and equivocate between these states and what we would consider to be more modern civilized states. All these states took elaborate care to maintain internal justice and guard against despotism. What do you think pre-colonial African justice looked like? Do you think it was rational? Do you think it was before a jury of their peers? Do you think the warlords weren't also despots? I guess it's all the white man's influence that's called despotism in Africa. It was a hub of democracy before that. In the Great Congo Basin, states and empires arose, from the coastal Congo to the Kuba, Luba, and Lunda in the very heart of Africa. Okay, states and empires arising means people getting their fucking heads cut off and their stuff taken. But either way, they brought unity and peace. Much in the same way the Roman Empire brought unity and peace by creating a wasteland and then populating it with Romans afterwards. But they cultivated the arts and created royal courts of considerable splendour. In the 16th century, Bashongo king Shambhala, I'm not even going to try and pronounce this, was renowned as an eclectic philosopher. He doesn't have a Wikipedia page, he's not really that renowned, I guess, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure that this was a guy who was renowned as a philosopher. Wishing to rule wisely and fairly, he gathered about him representatives from all parts of his empire and encouraged the free interchange of ideas. And we will look at some of these ideas. They're not scientific. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh, I'll get to it. The river network was vital to both the economic and political expansion of these flourishing societies. I just pulled these off my phone and they're in no particular order. But this is about Egyptian women. Women in Egypt were respected and often held positions of influence. A wealthy man's wife, as mistress of his estate, helped him oversee its work. Professionally, well-born women could join a special order of the priesthood, or serve as the temple as singers and musicians, or sacred prostitutes. They were midwives and professional mourners and dancers at funerals. Peasant women worked in the fields with men. Skilled women assisted in manufacturing textiles. So they're basically like modern women now. I mean, they're basically, they had loads of rights, you see. Like Egyptian women, wow, they were basically progressive feminists. And I love all the use of could or did. I think maybe were forced to do these things is really the name of the game, because in pre-industrial societies, everyone had to work. Returning to sub-Saharan Africa, this is a list of items that were around. I didn't bother taking a photo of them to be honest, because this was enough. Left wall, young girls' adornment. The reed necklaces are specific to uncircumcised girls. Floor, knife for circumcising girls. Wonderful. So this is what happened to women in old age. The affections developed in youth between the sexes are abruptly broken by marriage. Marriage is necessarily a compact between two groups or families rather than between individuals. The man a girl marries may be twice her age and 100 miles distant from the scenes of her childhood trysts. I love that they as if women in these societies are just completely calluses and wrinkles soon replace the clear skin of youth. The earlier abandon gives way to fear of ill health and the dangers of childbirth. Competition takes a new form. Women who were formerly rivals begin to find a new unity and gossip incessantly about their husbands. This is not done out of spite, but because gossip and the men's fear of ridicule is the women's major means of protection against abuse. It's nicely implying that all of these men would just abuse the fuck out of their wives because they can, and this is the only way they can prevent it. When women work at their chores in company or drink beer together, they also formulate a body of opinion that by its very unity influences the behaviour of men. Women have no formal authority in Pokot life, but can exercise considerable power. So that's okay then. They've got no formal authority, but the fact that they all sit there and nag collectively means that everything's just hunky-dory. Don't you judge this culture. And the thing is, normally I would say it's not really fair to judge these cultures, but it's just the way this is written with such apologetics, as if like say, look, women have got loads of power in society just because, you know, they're property and you've got to pay a bride price. No, don't look down on these cultures. So look, if you come from a more advanced culture than this, you can't help but look down on them, because your culture is doubtless superior. I mean, hell, you know, Islamic cultures are superior to this. In the West African grasslands lie many indigenous states ranging from the tiny principalities of the Cameroon Mountains, such as the Mun, to the elaborate feudal empires of the Fulani, the Mossi, the Hausa, and the smaller but more complex societies of the Lupe and the forest states of Dahomey and Yoruba. It just strikes me as so weird that you would need to try and say that this is a good thing. Because, I mean, like, I would never try and portray feudal Europe as being some equivalent to modern day society, alternative to modern day society. And I don't understand why they'd be trying to present feudal Africa in the same way. The fact that it's feudal is the problem. No one talked up the feudal nature of Europe. It was seen, it's generally seen, as far as I know, as a regressive, it's backwards. But anyway, the Mossi and Hausa states come down from the great West African empires of the Middle Ages, such as the Ghana, Mali, Songhai and Borneo. These were built on the trans-Saharan gold and slave trade with the Arab peoples. The American slave trade drained much of their prosperity, and this new trade was based on the coast rather than the inland region, and today their ancient splendour has waned. How very dare they? You stole our slave trade and it made us poor! My goodness, that's so offensive. Most of these states are Muslim. I love that Muslim as well. Ruled by emirs whose ancestors subjugated pagan peoples in a series of jihads or holy wars. Well, that's just fine. And this is something, the museum is actually rather woke on jihad, but we'll get to that later. Opposition without hostility. This one's golden, right? The East African grasslands are home to diverse neighbouring peoples, some of whom hold directly opposed views about the world and how we should live in it. They nonetheless dwell side by side in relative peace. Past wars resulted from large-scale migrations that caused severe competition for land. That's a good argument against the migrant crisis. When Nilotic and Cushitic cataracts pushed southwards, acute conflict arose between these immigrants and already established farmers, as you would expect. In consequence, some peoples moved on, but others accepted foreign rule, and some were assimilated. but sharp opposition of values remained. The Maasai herders and Kyaikju farmers typify this inner conflict. They divided the land and lived apart, so they segregated themselves. Though mutual raiding became a major activity, raiding is not a pleasant thing. A smallish band, will sneak into another person's territory, kill a bunch of people, steal their stuff, and run away with, captives and slaves, ruin people's lives, right? Far from being an act of war, the raid served as a safety valve, allowing each side to express its opposition and so reinforce its values without resorting to open warfare. Reinforce our values of what? Raiding you? Stealing your wives and your daughters? Murdering your sons? Taking all of your possessions? Leaving your village on fire? But hey, don't worry, it's a safety valve. We're not resorting to open warfare, this is just going to go on for generation upon generation upon generation. Everything's fine. The importance of women in African societies is usually much underrated, perhaps because women play a more quiet, private role than men. The woman rules the home and gets satisfaction from her time-consuming chores of cleaning, food preparation, and child rearing, for she is not taken for granted. Well, she doesn't need feminism then, does she? She doesn't need to advance her status in life at all. Just be literally the most traditional of traditionalist wives. Among the southern Bantu, women are eagerly courted even after marriage. Why would that be a good thing? And to maintain his status, a man must continually give his wife beads and ornaments so that she can make a good show. See, it's about power. All of this is through the lens of power dynamics. And it's okay because the woman is constantly courted, so the man has to constantly work for making the woman an important thing in the world. In polygynous societies, each wife has her own household, where the husband may be little more than a guest. See, the wife owns this entire household. Yes, the husband has like 5 wives, but the wife has her own household. This is all totally fine and totally normal. The payment of bride wealth in no way purchases a woman, but underlines her importance and even subordinates the husband. That's women being treated as children. That's literally the Matt Binder of the world. Like going on in Africa, and these regressive lunatics are just like, oh no, it's fine, she's not subordinate. For some reason. She doesn't deserve her own husband, she deserves to share one with a bunch of other people, but, she's not subordinate. Yeah, he had to buy her, but that's not the same. It grants no absolute rights. I don't imagine anyone's got many rights in this society. By their system of matrilineal inheritance, many grassland societies also recognise the key role of childbearing, the female line dominating the male. Yeah, well, I suppose you kind of have to if you have a bunch of wives. Economic authority. This is not. So, after the bride price has been paid, throughout Africa, women enjoy great economic prestige. Even among herders, where cattle are the nominal province of men. So, okay, women aren't really cattle, never mind. Women have specific rights over cattle in their province. Most grasslands people, including herders, subsist largely on crops raised by women's hands. It sounds like they're serfs to me, doesn't it? Further, a woman's granary is inviolable. Yeah, I'm sure that the people doing the raids are like, you know what, we're not going to take a woman's granary. Christ, that's inviolable. And though her husband may have given her the land, she controls the crop. Well, that's fucking brutal, isn't it? The husband gets to decide where she can plant the crop. Where a surplus can be produced or time allowed for crafts like basketry or pottery, women also act as marketers and hold the family's cash wealth. Where cattle are wealth, I guess the women are shit out of luck. A number must be deposited with the family of the bride-to-be as a token of the man's good behaviour. Not with the bride, with her father. If he later defaults, his wife may leave him, and the deposit, so to speak, is non-refundable. You just can't talk about women like they're not property in this game. I'm sorry, that's non-refundable. You didn't come and pick up your property, as in my daughter, so I'm keeping these cows. Above all, African women are proud of their strength and regard heavy labour as anything but degrading, nor do they shun using their strengths on their husband if need be. I'm sure that they do. I'm sure that men and women in Africa are exactly equal strength, which is why they need to sit around gossiping to make sure that their husbands don't abuse them so they can use their collective power against men. You know, because they're really strong and they don't shun using their strength on their husbands, I guess. Political authority. Except for a few tribes like the Lovdi, where women rule, they seem unimportant in political life. Yet even in the great South African kingdoms where men wield all the symbols of authority, the power behind the throne is the woman. Right, okay, see, this, you could literally say this for any medieval European kingdom, and the feminists would sit there screeching the word patriarchy at the top of their lungs. But when it's happening in Africa, oh no, the women have the power behind the throne, really. The king inherits his office only by descent through the female line, because there are so many goddamn polygamous marriages. I just can't. It's the apologetics. And cannot transmit it. The power lies with his mother and sisters, except for the fact that the women don't have any particular importance in political life, and men wield all the symbols of authority, which means that they have the authority. You know, the purpose of having a symbol of authority. But they often have their own courts and act as royal councillors. Among the Lozi, I think it is, the royal title means earth, directly tied to women, who control the land and its fertility. The king's sister nominally rules half the kingdom, and his own capital is called Namusa, Mother of Government. So it's basically a matriarchy. Though Lozi women rank as legal wards of the men, they're like children, basically, in the eyes of the Lozi. They have explicit ways to exert power. For instance, only women can prepare the special beer required for the success of any ceremony or public event. The woman thus not only has bargaining power, but is openly recognised as vital to public life. Unlike in medieval Europe, where women had to do all these things at their men's behest, and they weren't given the symbols of authority. You know what I mean? It's such crazy apologetics. But don't you dare say that these women are being oppressed by their husbands, because that would be racist. Remember that Shamba something or other, the wise king who brought all of the intellectuals around his kingdom to come and discuss ideas? Well, let's have a look at some of those ideas. Many traditional African societies believe the world to be permeated with a powerful vital force, found in stones, metal and other inanimate or vegetable matter. It is stronger in animals and still more powerful in man. This force can be tracked and used for good or evil. What we might call magic is seen as a science, and one not to be wholly scorned. Tribal doctors know many effective medicines, but even their charms are not ineffective. They're placebos. They offer at least the much needed sense of security. Some charms we class as sympathetic magic. Do we? Because they... sympathetic bullshit, you mean? Because the object or related act resembles the desired end. Thus, rain medicine may look or sound like rain. Wow, it's amazing how that works. Preventative medicines and charms are thought to work by virtue of their own inner force, without spiritual help, through science, not faith. Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly it. It's how the medicine man controls the lightning, I guess.
They believe that through the magic, the black magic that comes out is that you are able to send a lightning to strike someone. So can you explain that scientifically? Because it's something that happens every
And don't forget divination. Central to almost any traditional African society is the diviner. He may also be the doctor, priest, chief, or all of them at once. What the fuck not? All are aspects of one essential need for physical and social order. The term witch doctor is utterly unsuitable. Presumably it's offensive. The doctor, as he is better called, PhD, is there to cure. The priest may enforce the cure. Divination, however, must come first. Duh. It can be done in various ways. Often it is a show for the benefit of the public, so it's horseshit. All gossip converges on the diviner. If the complaint is a social one, like theft or adultery, he will often know the answer and divine it accordingly. So he won't actually know the answer, he'll make up the fucking answer. If it is physical, he will even call in the doctor, presumably an actual doctor, or use his own knowledge, which would be far less preferable than calling an actual doctor. For a minor complaint, he may advise buying the appropriate fetish, which I'm sure is going to work. for protection or cure. For the more serious complaints, they will probably call in a doctor or priest. Just call them. When a problem goes beyond the realm of what science can do, we enter the realm of faith. Almost all of this is built on faith. This is great. The Leopard Man societies, the Anyota of the Bali in the Congo, typifies many of the societies of the forest belt that involve predatory animal symbol. Though invariably thought to be devoted to political murder, and I believe this is actually a contemporary thing they're talking about, the Anyota actually serves to unite the tribe at times of crisis. Well, it's a uniting force, it must be good. As when a chief dies and dispute over succession threatens the group unity vital to survival. Society activities then focus attention on the urgency of resolving the crisis. I mean, you'd think they'd do it through lot, or maybe by democratic vote or something. Far from being criminals, initiates are wholly respectable. When crisis occurs, they may identify with their chosen symbol, the leopard, also the symbol of death. The trance identification enables the initiates to communicate with the dead ancestors. I love the way they're saying this, like this is factually true. Seeking advice and help. During these trances, which occur spontaneously in response to tribal crises, look, it just spontaneously happen. There's no political murder. Oh no, there is. Of course there is. This is horseshit, right? So, the leopard men do indeed behave like leopards, pouncing on their victims, killing and partly eating them. The killings are not acts of wanton murder, however, but more like ritual sacrifices. Explain to me the difference. Designed to avert disaster for the group. Yeah, if we kill a bunch of people, we won't have a disaster. Just genius. Absolutely amazing. I don't know why we don't do this in the modern day. What's the point of courts and justice and judges and jails? We just ritually murder and eat each other. The horror they inspire sharpens awareness of whatever malady activated the Anyota, so bring on the killings. Like these people don't have any responsibility for their actions. Conflict among people is soon resolved, and the cause of the evil righted, so that the dread killings will cease. Yeah, I fucking bet. In trance, the initiates are utterly unaware of what they're doing. I'm sure that's what they tell you. So the killings are random, and a man may even unknowingly kill his own kin. This adds to the horror and to the effectiveness of the society as a deterrent. Yeah, so that's basically something we can respect. We can look at that and go, it's basically the same as Western justice, if not in some way superior, because it probably costs a lot less and it probably happens a lot quicker. This is another amazing one. The sacred state. The great states of the Western woodlands often appear to be despotic. I thought they were preventing despotism. We saw earlier that they were definitely preventing despotism. Only with the coming of firearms, however, could a ruler really exercise any personal power to subdue the will of the people. It's not that one guy has a gun, you dummies. Kings ruled by virtue of their descent from semi-divine ancestors, and were often considered merely a receptacle for that divine power. A king's weakness or abuse of his position was seen as a sign of unfitness, and he was promptly removed. Still, as opposed to more classical divine kingdoms, the sacred states were often militaristic, and were built of smaller kingdoms seeking common defence. Such confederations were quickly welded into single unified nations by creating the myth of an ancestor common to all. I love the way they say this like someone had the idea of doing this, like it's a top-down project. Like this isn't just a legend, sort of, swirling around and being passed around and then builds into an identity. But anyway, whereas each had seen itself as a separate family entity, the very notion of family enabled them to extend or contract their horizons to suit conditions. The unity achieved in this way was both secular and sacred. Secular and sacred. Was it? It sounds like absolute horseshit, especially when you go into the bit where literally every aspect of their existence was religious. Totems. Like heraldry in Europe, widespread totemic symbolism serves in Africa to distinguish peoples by descent and relative status. Some nations have animal totems like the lion of Dahomey. The Baga snake and the Senfu hornbill are central to the religious identity of those people. See, it's all religious. Such symbols are repeated not only in shrines or in sacred figurines and masks, but on state regalia and even on household furniture and utensils. Lesser totems for clans and lineages enable people to determine quickly a stranger's relationship and the proper level of respect and hospitality due. Because if you're not the right totem, you can get fucked. Legends often link totemic animals with the founding ancestor. Out of respect, they are not hunted, killed, or eaten by any member of the totemic group. Among other things, totemism helps to unite disparate people by the bond of common sentiment. The stool. Of all the authority symbols, man outranks the stool. For the Ashanti, the stool contains the kra, or the soul of its departed owner. The famous golden stool is in effect the soul of the nation, ruling through the body of the temporal king, representing the ancestor. The king himself is semi-divine. He must always wear slippers, lest his feet be polluted by the dead buried under the soil. Remember, the state is also secular, in as well as being sacred. His health must be kept perfect, for it is the health of the nation. To ensure democratic government, I'm sure all of these democratic governments are completely democratic. Tradition obliges him to delegate much authority to other officials or stools. Secret societies such as the Ogboni of the Yoruba also see that the local government serves the people's interests. See, it's not like a hierarchy that's exploitative or anything. No. This is serving the interests of the people. Not the women, who are the property of the husbands. Shut up. The Ogboni can advise or even countermand the king, and can demand or enforce his death, usually by suicide if he abuses his sacred position, that's also secular. Concern with ancestors dominates the political scene as yet another check on the abuse of personal power in the great sacred states. If kingly descent is passed on in the female line, as in much of West Africa, only the children of the king's sisters, not his own, can inherit his status. His sister is then, in a sense, more important than he, for she holds the continuity of the royal line. In a sense, she's more important, as in after he's dead. And until her son or daughter is, whatever. But she's not really more important, is she? Royal women often have their own courts and their own stools of authority. Their word carries much weight in state affairs, yet their power too derives from the ancestral fount of all authority. Along with many of their onerous duties, shared with the men of the royal clan as ritual propitiation of the ancestors, a constant reminder that to both rulers and ruled, there are divine powers greater than those of the king. But remember, this is also a secular thing. But you know what I find interesting is the way they tried to jam the idea that these societies are formed in a secular way together with the religious bit. They understand that secularism is a much more preferable thing to a theocracy, and yet they can't help but describe this as a primitive tribal theocracy, because that's literally what it is. The spirit world, focus for religious life in traditional Africa, explained the world of the living and offered hope, encouragement, and the promise of an afterlife, affirming a power greater than man's. While many systems embraced a creator god, few believed him to be directly approachable, but spirits, approachable in varying degree, bridge the gap between the living and the creator. An animal spirit could convey some of its power, whether cunning, strength, speed, or ferocity, and was to be respected but used, not worshipped. Worship was only for ancestral spirits, often represented by figurines and masks, or by vacant throne or stool wherein dwelt the people's founding ancestors. By veneration of the spirits, all-knowing, all-powerful, and by following the ancestral way, the good are assured afterlife. See, I don't... Sorry, probably can't be... See, this isn't like... It's not bad. It's not wrong that they're like that. You know, there's got to be a time when the Europeans stopped stealing things from the black man. If it wasn't all of the ancient science and technology they developed that the European obviously stole from them, citations and Garvey quoted, and then it's the very concept of man coming out of Africa in the first place. Europe was the birthplace of mankind and not Africa. Scientists find... Well, yeah, but these are going to be white scientists, aren't they? White Western scientists using a scientific method that doesn't even account for how a witch doctor calls down lightning.
There's a place in Kabialimana, and they believe that through the magic, the black magic, which comes out is that you are able to send a lightning to strike someone. So can you explain that scientifically? Because it's something that happens every
So the history of human evolution has been rewritten after scientists discovered that Europe was the birthplace of mankind and not Africa. Well, you know what the problem here is. Eurocentrism. This is just Typical Western chauvinism. Good grief. Currently, most experts believe our human lineage originates around 7 million years ago in Central Africa, where hominids remain for the next 5 million years before the field. But 2 fossils of an ape-like creature which had human-like teeth has been found in Bulgaria and Greece, dating 7.2 million years ago. Oh shit. The discovery of the creature named Brachopithecus freybergi, and nicknamed Ogrico by scientists, proves that our ancestors were already starting to evolve in Europe 200,000 years before the earliest African hominids. An international team of researchers say the findings entirely changed the beginning of human history, placed the last common ancestor of both chimpanzees and humans, the so-called missing link, in the Mediterranean. At that time, climate change had turned Eastern Europe into urban savannah. To explore states and find new food sources, sparking a shift towards bipedalism, researchers believe. The study changes the ideas related to the knowledge about the time and the place of the first steps of humankind. Brachopithecus is not an ape, he is a member of the tribe hominins, and a direct ancestor of Homo. The food of the Brachopithecus was related to the rather dry and hard savanna region, unlike that of the recent great apes which live in forests. Therefore, like humans, he has wide molars and a thick mane. To some extent, this is a newly discovered missing link. The missing link will always exist because evolution is the infinite chain of sexual forms. Probably, Ogrico's face will resemble a great ape with shorter tails. Doesn't he look like a happy chap as well? Oh. The team analysed 2 known specimens of Brachopithecus freybergi, a lower jaw from Greece and an upper premolar tooth from Bulgaria. Using computer tomography, they were able to visualise the internal structures of fossils and show the roots of the premolars and the fused. While great apes typically have 2 or 3 separate and diverging roots, the roots of Brachopithecus converge and are partially fused, a feature that is characteristic of modern humans, early humans and several pre-humans. The lower jaw has additional dental root features suggesting the species is common. The species was also found to be several 100,000 years older than the oldest African hominid. I'm not even trying to pronounce that, which was found in chat. We were surprised by our results, as pre-humans were obviously known only from sub-Saharan Africa. This dating allows us to move the human-chimpanzee split into the Mediterranean. During the period, the Mediterranean Sea went through frequent periods of drying up completely, forming a land bridge between Europe and Africa, and allowing apes and early hominids to pass between the continents. The team believe that the evolution of hominids may have been driven by dramatic environmental changes that sparked the formation of the North African savanna more than 7 million years ago, and pushed the species further north. They found large amounts of Saharan sand in layers dating from the period, suggesting that it may lay much further north than today. Professor Bomb added, our findings may eventually change our ideas about the origin of humanity. I personally don't think the descendants of Brachopithecus died out, they may have spread to Africa later. The split of chimps and humans was a single fact. Our data supports the view that the split was happening in the Eastern Mediterranean and not in Africa. If accepted, this theory will indeed alter the very beginning of history. However, some experts are more skeptical about the findings. Retired anthropologist and author Dr. Andrews, formerly at the Natural History Museum of London, said, it is possible that the human lineage originated in Europe, but very substantial fossil evidence places the origin in Africa, including several partial skeletal skulls. I would be hesitant about using a single character from an isolated fossil to set against the evidence from Africa. Well, I mean, I have no idea what's correct or not about this, but I do know that there are going to be a lot of very pissed off activists if it turns out that man did not in fact come from Africa and in fact came from Europe. That makes human beings in general colonizers. Evil colonizers from the indigenous stock of Europe. Oh, this is not going to go down well. Did you honestly think that an ad campaign called White is Purity was going to end well? Just why? I mean, come on. Nivea confirmed for alt-right. Nivea has pulled a deodorant ad that declared white is purity after people protested that the slogan is racist. And after others hijacked the ad's online campaign with comments about white supremacy. Honestly, Nivea, what the fuck were you expecting? Just what were you expecting? This is the most tone-deaf thing I've ever seen. It's absolutely hilarious. The ad, which appeared in a Facebook post last week, originally targeted the German skincare company's followers in the Middle East. So it was Islamophobic as well as being racist and white supremacist. You got a hat trick. Well done. It was intended to promote Nivea's invisible to black or white deodorant, and depicted the back of the woman's head with long wavy dark hair that tumbled over an all-white outfit. Underneath the woman's locks, the slogan all caps, white is purity. Just like... You know, I'm actually really with Haley on this one. They really didn't think this through. Just... What is purity? I can't believe the 1488ers don't already have that as their motto, to be honest. The post was quickly condemned by those who saw it as promoting racist rhetoric. What the hell is this? White purity? Shame, shame, shame on you. Said, what was the woman's name in Game of Thrones? I can't remember. The old hag who beat Cersei Lannister. God, I ruined that joke. Fire the marketing person, anyone who approved this ad. Now, to be honest with you, you don't want to do that, because they might well go to a rival company and make them look like white supremacists. Another Twitter user took images of racist comments that had been left on Facebook. Wow, and even people say, this is horrendous. Literally 04 sites. 1488. Oh, they shut it
I finally come to the conclusion that having a creative path in life will never be easy. It's never going to be safe. The reasons why you continue on are unique. This is what's important to me.
upstairs, she's down there. Why did you leave? And as far as we're aware, like, those are the questions that persons have booted their lives on the earth. Space. But this is rather amazing to look you notice, and it's conspiracy theorists can't handle the first okay, tell me what the conspiracy is, and why the government is shaking whereas delusion is space living beings with lie back it off in the actual comment section. What
makes me feel
monumental task, and there's so many if there is no, if the earth is not why does that matter? If the earth isn't why is everything else in the universe and the earth is just the one thing it's the world is like this
makes me feel
which I mean, it's not impossible. It is the product. It doesn't make the world stop. That makes aerospace industry really lazy. Well, we could say but ways and from CGI like computer done it. It wouldn't. Good point. Yeah, we could probably get this done by Tuesday and take the rest of the week off. Great idea. That's good thinking. You know, I can see no argument for the fake moon landings and such. They're very few of them are based on the idea that the earth is flat. So, maybe some of the family can go to school. Why is the earth moving so fast? Because it's rotating at 60,000 miles an hour. Yeah, and I'm no scientist, just in case you wonder. What's it fitting in the CGI? Of course not one render. Yeah, I think it's the way that a 360-degree video works, which is like painting the stars. Oh, that's another thing. You know why you can't see stars during the day, Junior? Because of the sky. Really bright, really close, like the stars of the other sky.
makes me feel
I don't give a shit about what it looks like, but I still know. Why fish on others? Is there something behind it? That's such a bizarre thing to do. In fish eye lens gives you access to more around you rather than less. You can see more with a fish eye lens. Why would you be trying to hide something like this? This seems a bit counterintuitive. The question is answered by the space rocket is why would you think that? just a way of giving you a wider perspective. You'll notice that it's distorted along the edges, it's stretched, and it's not like a very nice, but it's very effective.
Swag.
And I'm sure there's going to be people out there like, hey, look, loads more about fish eye lenses you don't know. And I totally agree. There's absolutely loads about fish eye lenses I don't know. And I don't care to know, to be honest. But please feel free to let me know. I mean, it's interesting. In the 360 solar panels analysis of the ancestors, we see intriguing space. This one has got people thinking the absence of alien life form.
Can't lie, they don't do.
Are we all just hanging around in low orbit? It's got nothing better to do than die and it's still fucking around. They won't show space and therefore you will see UFOs flying. I'm sure it is in fact underwater CGI rendering because they're too many idiots flying around the Earth. Let's stick to things that we can.
The death toll in Venezuela has increased amid protests over a controversial vote that passed this spring. Now, this vote is all about replacing a legislative body known as the National Assembly in Venezuela with a pro-Maduro assembly, which essentially now has the power to rewrite the Constitution. Now, unfortunately,
Let's go now!
of course, people are calling this entire election fraud. And I'll tell you why in just a second. But for those of you who want a little bit of a backstory before I get into the details of this recent update on Venezuela, there have been protests in Venezuela because of rapid inflation, lack of resources, because the economy there is so reliant on oil,
Let's go now!
importing products, as soon as oil prices went down, people started to go hungry.
Metallic two-ton killing noise, kill and destroy. You know we don't play around, no.
I'm saying this.
Listen up! Push me, and you know we don't mess around. Hit him with a big sound. Yeah, we kill him with the big sound. Get down. Listen up! Push the vibe up! Mad Sonic 2, telling them to kill the noise, kill and destroy. Whoa, yeah. You know we don't play around, no. Very, very, very epic. It's very epic. Speed fire, speed fire, speed fire, speed fire.
So then he went on to solidify his power by doing this including, by the way, Mexico, directed at the police to destroy this majority. So, now, for us, if whenever there's any police violence, we say, yes, they're terrorists. All protesters are terrorists, and so we will do a crackdown with police justice.
There is no legitimate mandate to try and violate however, these people want to look at democracy.
Now, I don't think we're doing this justice, but why I hate it makes us unsure that we understand the full story. You see what I'm saying by that?
I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm an expert on this, but I find this happening so fascinating, so I have spent a lot of time listening to this and trying to figure out what's going on. And I understand that there's going to be propaganda on both sides, especially when issues related to socialism are involved. I don't want to fall victim to that propaganda. So here's what I know, and I've said this before when I've covered what's going on in the it is not one thing. It is not just the fact that it's a socialist country.
think that doesn't equal hyperinflation either. You'll still have
And so it's a combination of things. And by the way, one other factor, they were putting lights on consortium products. They stopped making and manufacturing lights in the country. And so now there's...
I wonder why they do that.
People relying on imports, but still that's going to raise the cost of the products that they need to survive. So it's a number of different things, and unfortunately people are going to latch onto one thing or another for their own talking points, their own propaganda.
Yeah, don't get so disagreeing with yourself. So let me give you one more on the other hand, then finally give you my so when you look at how protests were orchestrated to take down the governments that actually represented the wrong people in Latin America in the past, and then along in the 1950s, orchestrated by the CIA, this is what they look like. So I'm not saying they are in this case, I'm going to tell you what I think in a second about this situation. So that is why, though, when we see a situation like this, we go, okay, because of the wrong move we've done in the past, it makes us pause and go, are we falling victim to yet another ruse? And by the way, in those instances, the government would use not just a decade.
You read your comments on the videos. You probably see them from Venezuela. I mean, I got to say, I did a video on Venezuela, and I didn't overstate this. I was trying to be sensitive and very, very cautious in the charges in this case. And I had dozens of Venezuelan commentators saying that it is marvellous, giving you credit for the conversation coming.
Looking at the totality of it, I don't think that's what's happening. And I based on that.
Genuinely very interesting.
That on a number of things. Because the world, if you were genuine you wouldn't practice it. Again, it's oversimplifying a tiny bit to say that, but that was the effect of that, of the decision to do that. And then if you do not know why you want opposition is not participating, you don't go, okay, I guess I win all 500 some other things. It's all mine. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to now take the Constitution and imprison my political opponents.
Yes, transparent to yes, it really is. I think that
what he's promising to do. No, I'm thinking the political opponent is not the right thing to do under any
field in Venezuela in regard to what just happened. Human posting was 70% of the and so it's kind of amazing because 70% of the posts to it. It's just like America. You're like,
Someone who disagrees with what was Oh man. They didn't tell Imagine my shock.
There's something reassuring about it. Well, I think it's good. Jeremy Corbyn's still the most popular man in the country. He never will be. Even now, he's still not popular. He's just popular with his segment. And the segment is working. I mean, they certainly don't get the reason they downtime and
That brace beat, that
During the course, it has capable of any scripted good or original ideas. Everything he is doing is doing from scratch. I'm not joking, literally everything he has done has been stolen from a social popular John McDonald has done it, so they've held like this. Why are you taking any advantage of that?
that first beat, that
You should be smashing them. You should be needling them constantly, asking them how they can improve and how they can work, embarrassing them before the big public are not particularly fond of socialism. But like your social programs, you don't have the idea of taking someone else's money and using it to do it. They find it insulting because they deserve someone else's money. I didn't earn that. I don't deserve it. But you did earn it. I don't deserve it. Socialists wouldn't probably commit to it. But anyway, this is the very premise of what's happening here. Means you're not you need to go. You're not good at what you're doing. You're not going to why you have such a leader agenda. And I don't think you're capable of even though I do think understanding of what's going on. There are definitely directions and I honestly think
that brace beat, that the list of foods for all the videos to be almost edit.
In the tornado, it's too late to run. We're caught in the tornado, it's too late to run.
Very good indeed.
In the tornado, it's too late to run.
And she's she doesn't even know how to find that. And she doesn't have any other way of attacking it. She's got nothing. She's empty. She doesn't know what she's doing. He's actually the perfect foil for her. Unbelievable. But these mobs can't actually make it. He will actually very powerful with having base inside them, as you've already seen. And he's quite cool. If you look at the side Johnson, who, and I say this with a great amount of affection, I find him to be a very amusing man. I'm not someone who's like, yeah, I like watching TV dramas. I like watching TV shows. I like watching films. Really funny. Also, you know who would make it better. Theresa May, Boris Johnson, or a man who's actually speaking sense and is actually addressing the issues that people are actually concerned about in the way that they want to hear it addressed. And he's not actually he's set with the wrong people, the British people Jeremy Corbyn is going to be very close to we need to do something.
Will we ever wake up from this dream?
Just give me some time, baby. Don't
Downvote that I'm just saying that's what you're saying. Okay, well, listen to where's the pixel? Where is it? Tell me where the pixel is. What is actually wrong with what we're doing? We're just doing exactly what the alt-right has already done. Where's the criticism? What are you accusing us of doing wrong? Ku Klux Turtle says skepticism to you could say it's liberalism minus progressivism. Because that's
y'all trying to make the next highlight on sports, huh?
Is that a criticism? Oh great, the LJW movement is official.
Hey Harper, pull up!
liberal justice warriors.
BK to
okay.
NC.
Is that criticism?
CI.
Well, it's not an argument.
Back block.
You understand that none of these arguments
Next highlight on sports. Hey, yo, hey, Harper,
that's
pull
never
up.
nice, listen up again. More like liberalism, am I right?
to NC. CI.
Okay, this is
Back
actually
block.
an actual comment. Communists can be elected
Jello
to
beats,
destroy,
holla
but
at
corporations cannot love it. Well, yeah.
Already got some hot,
Indeed,
nigga, straight up out the
like,
Coney Island
like,
blocks.
Islamist could run
Crossover,
for
step back, I might drop.
Vote for them.
Game on the line, I'ma take the shot. Streets got them handles, he might drop me.
I
Shout
don't
out
think
to
they
third
should
of my
be
block.
on the basis of what
Trying to
they
win,
do,
coach
because
passed me the
because
rock.
frankly, that's what
Rock to the rack,
would
and
do.
one, you
My
forgot.
dad
Brooklyn brand, now I'm out NC. Big Kimmer in the back on dead me. Pops held me down, kept me out the streets. They wonder how I rose, grew up on the concrete.
I don't see a contradiction. This is quite a good contradiction. Maybe if you said communist conglomerate lobby for corporations.
He told me you did it. I'm like, I can't really believe you did this show.
This
You gotta watch out. You know, Bobby comes out here with a cap in your head.
I've been bowling hard since like the 5th grade. Watching AI getting 40 with the French braids. Love Indiana, I'ma miss some good days. Charlotte Horn and MJ, that's a new wave. Shorty like the way that I ball out. I've been getting money till I fall out. Super made, then I tell her call out. Shorty like the way that I floss out. Shorty like the way that I ball out. I've been getting money till I fall out. Super made, then I tell her call out. Shorty like the way that I floss out. Hit the weight room, then I hit the gym. Started from the bottom, it was either sink or swim. No hesitation, make a move, then I'm at the rim. I got tunnel vision, all I'm trying to do is win. New year, new money, so I'm coming for them. Niggas hate, man, they ain't got nothing on them. 2 chains, now I'm stunting on them. See a sinner in the lane and I'm dunking on them. Had to do it for my fam, son. Had to toe shooter and some Air One. Born ready playing in these speakers, yo. Just copped the race about a week ago. VIP, you know we bugging, bro. 30 bottles, tell them keep it coming, yo. Top spot, you know what I'm gunning for. Born ready, Air One, in case you didn't know.
At least with the basics, for example, individual rights, democracy, freedom of speech, meritocracy, blind justice, and secularism. I think these are all pretty solid. Like I said, there'll be revisions, and I'll go over them, and we'll do more streams talking about them, and you will definitely be invited. But I don't consider these streams to be a waste of time. Firstly, the news sites. Well, you can do the best of it. You can always debate. I'm happy to listen, I'm really happy to listen, and nobody has a better. And it seems that everyone's just doing it. So I think we should. Apart from the fact that it's ridiculously easy to find out about the politics, because liberals, we can do artistic liberalism. I really don't care. I don't see the problem there at all. And it's quite literally isn't each one of the liberal uses it. It's not really. It's very hard to find any real sort of footprint of this anyway. But there's no difference between calling yourself a liberal and calling yourself a liberalist. Yes, there is. Because being a liberal is a statement of concept. It's not doing anything. It's just saying these are my beliefs. But being a liberalist is someone who is an activist for these beliefs. I mean, if liberals want to sit around and go, well, I don't need to do anything because I'm a liberal, then they're going to find themselves without much liberalism around them, which is the problem that we've had. We need to start pushing for something, and to do that, we're going to need a label. I think the liberalist is it just screams at us. Just search for one word feminist, socialist, communist, whatever. Off my head, I can think of 3 liberal centrist, no, because I don't want to find myself compass. The political compass is basically just an arbitrary representation. Honestly, I don't like the terms like right, I find them archaic, now I know what I find them just quite listening. In fact, the liberalist is someone who communicates principles. stop shitting on people like libertarians who are nowhere against you. Yeah, they are. They are against this. They are if they can't get past them, they can go back to libertarian. The movement is neither violent, authoritarian, or libertarian. So rather than outside most of the consulting, it's definitely a potential ally to its side of the personal those that influence the values in that movement. So these aren't just concepts of they're not just about then they're not liberals. There's no obligation to be liberal.
Got me wrapped up in your time.
Don't believe this isn't the movement. And that's okay. If you're a libertarian, you think, okay, I can accept the existence of the state. But I can't accept anywhere I go. For example, if I say if I need a movement to push back against nonsense, it's good for that day. And Boris Johnson is resistant to Nazism. He's just not. Not at all. He just says, this is just the way it is. You just have to accept it. When we come to progressive morality or what, I will. Thirdly, stop asking because someone will achieve I would say everyone assumes I think I'm going to be small and hopefully have influence slowly, progressively, increase like year on year, incrementally, maybe use membership of some sort, host events, do interesting things, maybe get but all I'm saying is, I need to do something. Debated by poll parties and voting against the racial innocent rights. People like Spencer and Rose as much as I'm saying that they're making exactly the same. I mean, I would normally say, yeah, absolutely. But I watched some of Richard Spencer's video and he just doesn't understand the terms.
Back at it once again.
And I don't know what to say. I don't want to sound disingenuous. It's honest.
Slim K slowed out in this bitch.
The definitions of the country.
Man, I'm in here in the studio, you know what I'm saying, chopping up this shit, not stopping it up, you know what I'm saying.
I'm not saying we can't mock idiots and like that.
Leading the trap, man, once again. Nothing but bangers for the trunk, you know what I'm saying.
Honestly, I've got no real interest in
Shot stars. What up, Ace Time? I sound worldwide now.
I'm never going to speak to them again.
Slim K slow down shit.
Cooking up dope as your features, all my nigga counting bitches. Cooking up dope as your features, all my nigga counting bitches.
Screen outside of Easily was basically a hug.
Cooking up dope as your features, all my nigga counting bitches.
Coming together to discuss shared principles.
Nigga, we don't have a business.
It wasn't, let's have an
I know a lot of niggas out here say they work for
that we can say is universally
I guess everybody rich. Got down loud. To the stand on your right hand man, so you had to die.
Solid ideology.
Lost a lot of my real niggas, so I had to cry.
something more.
21 and that sex money, what I live by.
Alt-right hangouts.
My Glock fought it with the 30 round in the red dot.
Like, well, hang on.
Young nigga went from hot boss into a trap spot. Young nigga went from hot boss into a trap spot. Young nigga went from hot boss into a trap spot. Nigga clutching on the choppers every time the fucking dough knock. Sad Molly, that'll make your fucking heart stop. Fed taking pictures every time the fucking car stop. Auntie hit the door, said make a fucking jaw lock. Straight bullets hitting kids while they playing hopscotch. 15 the pregnant told her mama in a fucking teardrop. And that's my soda, that's my stove, and that's my pot.
And I'm more than happy to have this up to date. I'll collect pictures using the German screen, just the chat. I'm happy to go forward. But, like, the alt-right and non-fascism, I don't care. Of course they want us to. You say now, of course, it's early days, and we turn around to try and address these things. If you don't just going to say that I will fix that. I was on a stream with Dr. Lehman, I said, hey, wouldn't it be funny? I was drinking on stream with Lehman, and said, wouldn't it be funny if we just put Pakistan in the census?
My wrist in the bowl and I skirt. I bought a new Rari, I skirt. I fuck on your bitch and I skirt. We pull up and murder and skirt. These niggas, they know I'm berserk. I keep it up under my shirt. My nigga, we flipping that word. We jiggery missing that word. My nigga, we flipping that word. We jiggery missing that word. My nigga, we flipping that word. We jiggery missing that word.
So I guess
little bitty bitch wanna flirt. This little bitty bitch wanna flirt.
Why?
I'm fucking that bitch for a perk. I'm fucking that bitch for a perk.
In fact,
I'm smoking the OG from Cali. You little niggas still smoking perk. Niggas be talking that gangsta shit till these little niggas get hurt. Slaughter gang, nigga, they with me and they will put you on a shirt. Slaughter gang, nigga, I slaughter your daughter, they send her to church. Can't lose no more niggas. I lost some real niggas and nigga, it hurts. So I bought a new chopper, it's fully and sent me and 3 on their birds.
SCP asked a pertinent question. Do you not understand the difference?
Yeah, I know what the fuck going on, man. You already know what's going on, man.
Stop puffing your own thoughts for just a few seconds, that would be great.
In the lab, man, in the trap, man, chopping this shit up,
I'm
you
the best
feel
at
me?
something, or I'm amazing, and I'm gonna make everything happen. I just want to try. I know that you're okay with the SJWK for everybody. I know you are
die so hard.
Any attempt or not. And if you have a better idea,
dump it through 100 grand.
I don't want to be.
Watch how I run up the band.
Chill, Sammy,
Dump
what
it
up?
through 100 grand. All I wanted was a bag full of hundreds. All I wanted was a bag full of hundreds. A whole lot of money. About to go fuck up a chick. Fuck it up. About to go fuck up a chick. About to go fuck up a chick. About to go fuck up a chick. Yeah, I'm the motherfucking man. I might cash out on the lamb. Yeah, I'm the motherfucking man. I might cash out on the lamb. Yeah, I'm the motherfucking man. I might cash out on the lamb. Pull out with the doors open. And I'ma flex on the yeah, I'm the motherfucking man. I might cash out on the lamb. Pull out with the doors open. And I'ma flex on the ground. I'ma take somebody bitch. And I'ma go fuck on her friend. Sloppy in the Benz. And I'ma pass it to my man. I don't really give a fuck what they talking about. I'm on a paper chasing ride. Hit her front of baby. Put cream all over her face like she breaking out. Backwood full of scars. Double cup full of punch. Shawty put that pussy on me. I'ma eat it up. Watch how I run up the band. Run it up. Watch how I run up the band. Run it up. Watch how I run up the band. Run it up. Watch how I run up the band. Run it up. Dumping through 100 grand. I don't think they understand. Dumping through 100 grand. I don't think they understand. Watch how I run up the band. Just watch. Watch how I run the band. Just watch. Watch how I run up the band. Run it up. Watch how I run up them band. Run it up. Dumping through 100 grand. I don't think they understand. Dumping through 100 grand. I don't think they understand. Watch how I run up them bands. Fear gonna on my pants. waiting on me, so I dropped a couple sands. Racks on me just like Serena. My polo draws up at the cleaners. Stuff a Vegas till it's over. All my blunts look like fingers. Watch how I skirt off the light. Chef Curry with the pot. Got the juices like a pot. Got bitches naked on the yacht. She shaking ass and titties. 40 with my fitty. Dig up in the kidneys. Dice saw her with me. Take a bitch to finish. But nigga, I ain't friendly. Watch how I run up them bands. 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 Thumbing through 100 grand. I don't think they understand. Thumbing through 100 grand. I don't think they understand. Watch how I run up them bands. 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 Thumbing through 100 grand. I don't think they understand. Thumbing through 100 grand. I don't think they understand.
If you have a better solution, I am all in. I swear to you, I will listen to any other solution. But nobody has any. And so this is what I'm going to do. I appreciate that everyone has to say, I'll do my best.
All the niggas ballin'. All the niggas out there. Pulled up in the family.
But you're not going to dissuade me from
Pulled off with a down.
needs to be done.
Got a pocket full of mine. Kinda hard to keep my pants up. Niggas tryna run the bands up. Fuck a bitch with my hands up. Little fake fuck the sands up. Kinda hard to
Don't let it dance or whatever it is you do. Because they're afraid. That's all. This is the thing. It seems to be coming from a place of fear. The whole empty bravado. I mean, I'm not saying it's from the alt-right. I'm seeing a lot of soy from the alt-right, but not a lot of meat. And I like my steaks well done with ketchup, thank you very much. I'm sorry. After hearing what Sargon said to me, I couldn't be part of or trust anyone in this group, and that really hurt. What did I say to Matica? You're a bitch because you're going to do nothing like the FJW thing. What did I say to Matica? Was it anything like what Matic done in here? Jim was hit for pussy. 2013 Jim, big friends are gay. Aim get fucked because for shekels. 2018 Jim, welcome to Jim Co's Metacast.
Kinda hard to keep my pants up.
Today I'm taking calls from listeners and having the chat dictate what I do. Later I'll be releasing my hard-hitting video on a retard on the internet that literally
kinda hard to understand up. Duff bags in the Escalade. Caught a bitch still bread truck. Got a big on retarded. Call Uber for a spare truck. All these niggas never
Jim,
scared
I'm not going to meet
us.
anyone off the
All
internet
these
unless they
niggas
have a tight
never ran up. Bitches trying to put the heat on. Niggas trying to put the feds on. Niggas trying to take meds on. And everything for the players on. Singing like Arizona. Chocolate shot just for saying something. Friendship like aerosol. You a foul and it's a fair ball. Can't reach the goal.
And once again,
Keep shooting down air ball. Watch out, little bitch.
Gay or some misunderstanding or misrepresentation of
Watch out, little bitch. Watch out, little
people
bitch.
pretending they're making a political party when all
Watch out,
this is
little
right
bitch.
now is a time to describe
Watch out,
something.
little bitch.
Why should we let our opponents
Watch
define
out,
what we
little
are?
bitch.
Good call.
Watch out, little bitch.
I totally agree with you. So I'm not seeing
Watch out,
any
little
legitimate
bitch.
criticism. I'm
You
not
getting
seeing any
mad.
arguments against what we're doing being
I'm getting
wrong.
rich.
I'm just seeing
You
arguments
getting
that people don't want us to do. And of course there are people who don't want us to do it.
Watch out, little bitch.
Position to do it. So I don't think
Watch out, little bitch.
Watch
Watch out, little
carrying
bitch.
on as I am.
Hey, watch out, little bitch. You getting mad.
So I noticed
I'm getting rich. You
You
getting mad. I'm getting rich. Watch out, little hoe. My partner still smoke on parole.
Thank you.
They say that I'm crazy.
You are ready to get into
I
some
used to talk to a
forced
stove.
diversity
I tell
and
it to
satire?
lock.
I am indeed.
Shit, I tell
So,
her to
okay, let's
lock.
begin.
Go
What
to the
is
dealership.
forced diversity?
Bitch, tell
Personally,
off the
forced
lock.
diversity
You know I'm
when
coming straight
people
out the
who
block.
consider diversity
You know
to
I'm
be
coming straight out the
ideological
top.
goal.
Shorty said she
Come
want
along
by
and
me.
find a hobby
Cause
or
I told her to leave it called hard thought. You
doesn't
like it or
follow
not.
this policy
I'm
as
straight out the
we
pot.
demand
Just acting my
diversity
start. I ain't got a lot.
wishes of the people who
Nigga,
are
I ain't got a
already
try.
occupying the space.
You waving that thing in the sky? We waving that thing at your body. We waving that thing at your eye. Look at the watching my wrist.
Things that
Y'all don't know watching my wrist. Show that little bitch out pie. Man, they go walk your shit. I run the track like a marathon. You niggas softer than silicone. You know what it's like when the feeling gone. I know what it's like when the ceiling gone. I had to sit down with Farrakhan and how to like how to the pterodon. I used to serve at the Chevron. So I was like showing my necklace on.
He wants to have an award. Male or female?
Watch out, little bitch.
True, but I mean, he didn't define the terms of, you know, the
Watch out, little bitch.
I mean,
you getting mad?
if you're married,
I'm getting rich. You getting mad? Watch out, little bitch.
Anyone who's young and listening to this and thinking, what do you mean?
Watch out, little bitch. Watch out, little bitch.
So they say some folk will tell you that hobbies such as the fandom becoming more inclusive, which for some reason ruins them.
I'm getting rich. You getting mad? I had the bubble these niggas. I went on some on niggas. I got the wife out the dealer. I got my bitch a chinchilla. These niggas faking we realer. Leave on my side in the winter. These niggas hate on the winter. I'm winning in
Man, boys been winning for a long time by now, man.
These are the
Straight put it less around these boys, man.
These are factions. This is
Tapes
why
and
they
tapes
are.
and tapes on tapes, man.
You
know how we do it, man.
Change these things.
Niggas that time, man, we gotta move these fake niggas up. Lean and ninja trap, man. Once again, we win.
Oh yeah, I had the bubble these niggas. I went on some on niggas. I got the wife out the dealer. I got my bitch a chinchilla. These niggas faking we realer. Leave on my side in the winter. These niggas hate on the winter. I'm winning the world on here. I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning.
But when they shut up in there just for the sake of it,
we certain comic books, certain video games, movies. It's just such a bad track record that there's just no point even engaging with the idea. If you want,
like my playground. Go to club, drink, get chased with. I'm been war man, I get this strategy. I'm in my trip in my chick, I'm on ass of these bitches. Probably more cash than these niggas. I'm in my zone like a fucking. I'ma get money for bitches. Pulling in Houston, went back to Bay Ridge like I was a lot to work on. I know what these bitches want. I know what these bitches need. She gon' go and fuck a corny nigga with some money running back to me. I'm in Houston with some Philly niggas in the trenches fucking with the kids.
this person claims to be a 40k fan, and he now compares 40
I had the bubble niggas. I'm on some niggas. I got my bitch a chinchilla.
he couldn't pick two universes.
I'm in the winter. These niggas hate in the winter. I'm winning in all niggas. I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning. I'm winning on niggas. I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning. It's not on niggas. I want the right for the dealer. I want the bitch a chinchilla. Three niggas hate in the winter. I'm winning on niggas. I want the house of the big. She put the rocks on my wrist. I just bought a new bitch from the dealer and she put the wrist on my wheel. I put the cock on my heel. My bitch keep a gun in that burger bag. Niggas hating and it's really sad, but we feeling soft as the devil swag. Jail work up a family. I would think we selling nice town and the fuck niggas hating me. I'm a Stacking lobster, but I still remember hot dogs in the face, sleeping by the dog face. Why they hating on me? You made it up a strange. I'm what these rap niggas wanna be. I can never be a wannabe. I'm spinning this flavor is out of me. I'm winning this feeling of me. I had the bubble me niggas. I went on some on niggas. I got the wife out the dealer. I got my bitch a chinchilla. These niggas faking we realer.
I'm not against change.
These niggas hate on the winner. I'm winning and winning on niggas. I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning. turtles with me, they gon' eat you. But I ain't asking for no fucking feature. I'm just sending shots, baby, that's on Jesus. Big searching on the pimple diva. Sauce gang, baby, I'm the leader. Chasing fast cash, I'm a cheater. Stop the beat, bitch, I need a breather. All the bitches do what I say. They call me Simon, I'm a diamond smiling. I bitch took a bitch to the island. I'm Pimp Searching and I sell vagina. I got bad bitches down in China. Street fighter. Twins going back to back. Trying to steal my soul, saying every neck. 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 Trying to steal my soul, saying every neck.
Unless it's sauce food, man. The boys out here trying to jock a nigga style, you know what I'm saying? That's gonna correct, man.
It is a predominantly male hobby and it always will be.
Chop stars.
I think it's the nature of the subject that makes it appeal to men. Women generally aren't interested in cheering on a bunch of space fascists.
It is a ludicrously dark and depressing universe. It's the very basis of the universe is humanity is fucked and is basically holding on by its fingernails. It's not exactly a story of hope-loving queens.
Don't you open up that window?
The minority of women who do like 40K are already paying 40K because they like 40K. You don't need to change it to get them to buy. Most women won't. Probably won't be interested if half of the Marines are female. That wasn't the thing that was putting them off.
This is the same thing with Marvel. They were like, okay, we just need more female heroes, more minorities. And so Marvel gave them more female heroes and minorities. And what happened? They didn't believe them.
Party on a Sunday.
Popping
pills is all we do. Inhales is all we do. Don't go through the front door. At the night show. Don't you let
the better proof of how points and reputations are own than them giving the statistics of the feminist 40K pay. An area that you might think would have a higher than usual proportion of women, and maybe it does, and it's still not even water.
Again, I mean, here's the example. This is a page. I have quotes from the mob stating that they are banning people for